2 weeks ago, we heard from the one and only Thatch Nguyen that ADUs are the new Bitcoin. He said it. I'm just repeating it. What did he mean by that? He meant this is the way of certainty, getting a lot that you can build an ADU on. And of course, the only person I wanted to talk to after I heard that ADUs are better than Bitcoin was Derek, that ADU guy. Derek, man, how you doing?
I'm great, Zuber. I'm glad to have, glad to be here. Glad to see some of my friends already in the audience, and hopefully I can help.
Awesome. Well, why don't you, just in case somebody doesn't know who you are, talk about your mission. We've talked about it for 5+ years now. Just remind everybody of what your mission is, and we will catch up with where you are on that journey.
Yeah, for sure. My goal is to influence 1 million housing units in my lifetime. And we do that by open sourcing housing. So we give away free affordable plan sets. And then we have a YouTube series that's also free where we teach people how to build the ADU plans that we give away. And then we open source a lot of other information on social media platforms. And we try to say yes to everybody who asks us to come on and talk about the mission. So that's what we're going to do today. There's no stupid questions. I hope I can help every one of you with your direct, personal, selfish questions that will affect you in your wealth building.
Yeah, one of the things that I love about this journey and the fact that you and I have been boys for 5+ years now is when this conversation started, it was kind of like a unicorn, right? It was kind of that thing out there. It was theory. You were doing it, but not so many people, no other places. Cities and states were kind of in or out. But man, if you look at what's happened to date, more and more cities, more and more states are looking at affordable housing and realizing that ADUs are an easy answer. I mean, do you realize that you were on the forefront of this and a lot of your movement likely influenced all of this? It's got to be, it's got to feel good.
Yeah, I feel great to be just a small spoke in a wheel of zoning reform across the country. I don't want to really take the credit. I just got lucky to be raised in a small Oregon market where we had good planning and good policy early. And because of that, I was able to construct and work on my first ADU project in 1996. So we were first to
Wow.
market by no fault of my own.
96.
I just lived in this rad little town that was infill housing friendly. So it was just kind of the right place at the right time. But anybody that's really motivated and is always driving onward and upward is looking for those opportunities to capitalize on. So I just, my real the thing I'm most proud of, I think, is that I've just stayed in the same lane for
Mhm.
30 years. Like I just do the same thing over and over. And it was boring 20 plus years ago. And that's when I knew I was good at it. And I just kept doing it. So if I can teach anybody anything, it doesn't have to be this strategy, but if you can pick a strategy and try to
Yes.
just become the best you can be at that strategy, like you can't fail. You cannot fail.
No, that is step two of the wealth journey, right? Well, step one is you got to create disposable income. You have to have the seeds to plant. And step two is just become a lead at something. Pick your thing. You chose ADUs way back in 1996 and are crushing it since. Do you have any idea how many ADUs you have personally put your hands on over the last
Hundred,
30
yeah,
years?
hundreds, hundreds. Yeah, I'm not a data
Nice.
guy. I'm the ideas and like take action guy. I don't keep great records on that stuff, but hundreds. If I count ADUs that I've influenced through consultation or through conversations or going and showing up and touring and giving heads up on things, it's maybe at closer to 1,000, but
Oh, I'm
hundreds.
sure. I bet you it's 1,000.
Yeah.
I might even put money on it's over 2,500 if we're including ones that you've influenced.
Yeah,
Um,
if I've talked about them, it's fives of 5,000 probably. But I try to
yeah.
like ones I've actually been on site on or actually helped with officially. It's probably getting up close to 1,000.
That's pretty awesome, man.
Yeah, and then as far as like the content that's gone out to people, I mean, I get emails and DMs all the time from people I've never met or never seen that said, "Hey, you helped me here, or we built your plans." That is in the tens of, I mean, maybe not tens of thousands, but close. That's thousands and
Yeah.
thousands of people. We'll
Yeah.
we'll do a video that's about, how to build the most affordable kitchen, and 500,000 people will see it. Does that mean I influenced 500,000 ADUs? Probably not, but it's got the attention of people. And I mean, 10
Oh,
years ago, nobody knew what the acronym stood for. A few years ago, half the people on the West Coast did. Now, close to half of the plans on the West Coast are for building these things. So it's
yeah.
like really is gaining some traction quick, growing exponentially as far
Well,
as
let's
like the
talk about some of
awareness.
yeah, well, let's talk about some of the standards because again, you give all of this stuff away, which is just I love the fact that go-givers attract other go-givers, which we both are. But just talk about some of the plans you have, average square foot, time to build, costs, rough and tough. What are you putting out there?
Yeah, for sure, guys. So the number one mistake I see people make is they want to build the biggest one possible, and that doesn't really save them any money or give them the best return. You do get a little bit of an economy of scale when you build bigger, and in some of the highest priced markets in the country, I would say bigger is better, but we like to just build small. We like one bedroom, one bath units. Our flagship unit that we build is it's 528 square feet with a 200 square foot loft. So I call it about 700 square feet. And then we're building a two bedroom, two bath unit often now that's 810 square feet. And that's fits really well on some of our bigger infill projects that we do. But all in all, I think smaller is better. And our kind of our standard is how do we build affordable? It can have really nice finishes. These are not cheap looking units. They're just affordable design. So we like rectangular boxes, single pitch gable roofs, or single shed roofs. We're looking for efficiencies, so we're not wasting money. And then once we have these designs that we like, which you can find on our website for free right now, we just keep doing the thing that works. We don't try to reinvent it. We just change the location and the color.
I love that. Again, one of the things you realize when you get really good at something is it needs to become boring. So it's kind of, some is good, more is better. It's not about, constantly tweaking. This is not what we're trying to do here. So now when you are going to take on a project from approval to kind of move in, what is the timeline for a guy that's been doing this over and over again? Are we talking sub 90 days or is this still out there at 6 months?
Yeah, yeah, 90 days is always our goal. We'll build two at a time, often on the same lot in 90 days, and that's from plan ready. So it usually takes us anywhere from 4 to 12 weeks to get all the planning done. But what I like to do is when I put an offer in on a property or I have a property under contract, I'm already part of my offer is there's a line in there that says, "Hey, you'll sign an application as me as the applicant, but you're the property owner, so I can submit plans or apply for lot splits or subdivisions before it closes." So in that escrow period, I'm already doing the planning. So the planning work is a month or two, but once we have it's approved and we have plans in hand, we've got our blueprints and we're ready to
Right.
rock and roll. If it's taken us more than 90 days, something's wrong.
Something
We
wrong. Something
yeah, we're
broke.
doing four at a time in maybe 4 months on the same lot. But if it's a single unit or two units, detached, standalone, 90 days period. And that's only because, again, it's simple. We've built them over and over. Our subcontractors know exactly what to expect. We have no decision fatigue because we're simply repeating something that has already, been a hit.
Yeah, I love that. And then so the timeline, and then for you, obviously you're a contractor, you got economies of scale. I just want to kind of ballpark. What are you building per square foot, rough and tough?
Yeah, great question, Zuber. So for years, it was $100 a square foot was our standard period. And even us as owning construction and having really, really good relationships, we're about $125 a square foot now. And that 25% increase is some inflation in the market. Labor and services have gone up. If you watch the daily financial news, Zuber's been talking about this for years. It's like finally time for that part of the workforce to get theirs. It's
Yep.
it's good to see labor making
Yeah.
more money. But a lot of that too is because I'm backing myself out of the business. I
Mm,
still do the planning. Up until a couple of years ago, I still did some of the carpentry and all of the underground because the excavation underground, water, sewer, power, and cutting the house pad is by far the most expensive trade. And if you do that yourself, I mean, you have a $10,000 head start.
mm,
But I just got to the point now where I can't do it all, and I'm focusing more on policy and stuff. So I'm hiring that stuff out. So it's like, well, Derek, a couple of years ago, it was 25% less. Well, yeah, I'm doing less as well.
yeah.
If
Oh,
you're a
nothing
homeowner and
wrong
you
with
have
that.
no skills, but you have a checkbook and you want to manage the project, you maybe 150. If you're completely hands off and you're just like, like you were thinking, you call Brad and say, just get it done, you
Yep.
might be closer to 2 or 225. But just a quick reminder for everybody out there listening. I mean, we got to have the money to build the thing, but focus less on how much it costs and more on what the value will be when you're done. Not just
Yeah.
how much will it rent for and what is your, if we're in the Zuber camp here, we're looking at yield. I want people to be thinking about what's the long-term value of your property? What's the tax benefit? Can you use, this we got depreciation back, accelerated 100%. Or what's the value if you can put your mom there and not have to pay 10 grand to have her in some shitty home? So there's a lot of ways to look at the value. Look at that with the price, not just the price. So those are, 125 if you're insane, 150 if you're going to manage it, and maybe up to 225 if you're going to be completely hands off. And that's for a kind of entry level builder grade. It goes up from there.
Yeah. I love all of that. Well, let's catch up on a couple of things I remember us doing. Again, folks, raise your hand, put comments there. I do see a couple of questions, which of course you will be first up, but let's remind you to get them in there because we've only got Derek for about an hour or so. The last thing I remember us talking about is you were just on the cusp of building out a van. You were going to go from where you were currently living, which I remember being tiny at something like 600 or 700 square feet, to a 80 square foot van and travel the country. What's going on with that pet project?
It's slowly but surely pecking away. So yeah, my 528 square foot, we call it the barn cabin, which is our favorite unit to build. I've been living in the barn cabin and I was going to move into 80 square feet. I bought a Ford Transit extended all-wheel drive high roof cargo van. And 528 square feet, just really quickly, is like more than enough for a single person. Like I didn't even use half of that house. The van has been tight. I bought that the last day of the year so I could have some tax shelter. I needed to go spend some money. And it's
Yeah.
kind of sat behind my shop for months. I got the insulation done, the wiring done, the electrical systems in, the roof is in, um, the heaters in, the AC systems in, but like all my finishing work, the floor and the walls and all the cool stuff to make it look like a cool van you'd see on Instagram isn't done yet. But I've been using it a ton. And we've been traveling around. I'm going to do an ADU traveling road show where I go around the region and hopefully make it all the way. I've got some friends that have built in Florida and Connecticut. So I'm in Oregon, far east, west coast, and I'm going to go across the country
That's
and I'm going
awesome.
to just interview people and do videos of their builds and kind of tell their story on the YouTube channel. And the plan was to do that last year in 24. And then my only goal in 25 was to like say no to every project, be intentional with my time, don't go traveling to speak at events, just like focus on the van and go drive around and help people. And then I bought a couple of properties that fell in my lap and I joined the city council and like I've never been busier and I'm like what in the actual hell am I doing? So just a quick little plug for people that are trying to like work on goals and like try to get a really clear path of where their life's going. At least for me and the way my brain works is like it never happens as planned. But if we
Yeah.
suit up and show up, we're gonna have a good time. So
Yeah.
that's the van story. It's kind of delayed, but still in process with plans that maybe in
The mission will
26.
happen.
Yeah,
Just timing. Just
for
timing.
sure. For
That's
sure.
awesome. Well, you brought it up. This is something I saw on Facebook. I don't actually go on Facebook all that often, but when I did about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, I saw that you just joined the ranks of the city council. What the heck is that all about?
Yeah, good question. I wanted to hopefully add value and give back, and I really, really love this little city. I live in this little city on the kind of on the Oregon-California border, Ashland, Oregon, and it's a place that I really care about. And six basically volunteers, counselors, and a mayor pretty much make the administrative and some of the long-term vision decisions of the city. So I really care. I wanted a seat at the table. I've told my story before to some of the people in your audience. I know have heard it. For years, I used to go into the building and planning department and complain. And one day they said, "Hey, there's an opening on the planning commission. Do you want to do some work?" And I was like, "Gulp! Oh no! Like, what did I get
No.
myself into?" And I did that, and it was an amazing experience. And I learned so much. I learned so much more about zoning, and I was already pretty good at it. So I know that if I get involved with local political action campaigns, or if I get involved with decision making at the local level, I can learn a lot. I have some skill sets that I think will help. We have all these really academic people, amazing politicians, like people that are, I mean, their IQ is 2 or 3 times mine. But what we didn't have, I didn't think, or what we could use more of was like somebody that's maybe worked with the policymakers and been in the ditch and actually done the things that have been implemented by the city. So I wanted to have kind of a more blue collar representation in our
Yeah.
city. So that's why I threw my hat in the ring. There were some really high caliber people that applied. I didn't think I would get it. I just did it to say, well, at least I tried. And then I was like, oh crap, I got it. So that's been a cool new journey. It's a lot of reading, a lot of meetings, but I hear it's really rewarding. It hasn't felt rewarding yet. It's just felt like work,
Yeah.
but we'll see.
Yeah. I love it. Well, again, I think it's part of the mission, and I think getting behind the wall will be eye-opening for all kinds of good reasons. Probably some frustrating ones as well, but I think net it's going to be a positive. And frankly, we all get to benefit from your suffering. So I'm
Thank you.
pleased. All right, it's time for questions again, folks. Raise your hands, put them in the comments. We're going to go to Kevin first. Hi Derek. Do you have any tips for sourcing, vetting, back checking, QCing subs for someone trying to do it semi-remotely, 1 to 1.5 days a week on site?
Yeah, great question. Yes, yes, and yes. The first and foremost is going to be try to get referrals. If you know people in a market, if you're in, I mean, I was talking to Zuber a minute ago. Like this community alone is amazing. Over 420 people, pennies a day. Like there's probably somebody in school that knows an amazing contractor that's in your market or the market you're trying to build in. So always try to get a referral. But that's just the first step. After you get a referral, even if it comes from me or Zuber, hey, this is my builder, guys, call them. You still want to make sure you do your own research, vet the people. I can't tell you how many times I've met people that spend, 100 or $200,000 on a project. They call me halfway through and they're like, "Hey, my contractor sucks. They're not showing up. I feel like they're ripping me off." And I always say, "Did you check their references and what did their references say?" And most of the time, 8 or 9 times out of 10, they say, "No, I liked them. I trusted them. They had a nice truck. They had a good portfolio. Like I just hired them." Call references. So if somebody gives you a referral, that's step one. So step two would be to call 3 people that person has worked for before and ask them how the project went. Were they on time? Were they on budget? Did their crew show up drunk? Whatever questions are of concern. Another good way to do it is call or go into the local lumber yards in that market. Not Home Depot or Lowe's, nothing against them, great places, but the local small lumber yards where the professionals hang out and ask the people at the counter, "Hey, who has integrity? Who has paid their bill here for 10 years or more? And who would you hire?" And try to get 3 names and then the same process. You call the people, you interview the people, you ask them for references of people that they've built for. And a good reference would sound like this. "Yes, so and so built an addition for me. They did a really good job. They were a little bit over budget. Maybe they went a little bit long, but they were really good at communicating with me. Every change order was clear. I trusted them. They did what they said they were going to do. They were not perfect, but I would use them again and I would recommend them." Those are the references you want to hear, but the references are so, 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 so key. And then the next tier down from that, and I'm going to go long here because this is really how you're going to make money, guys, if you're not on site. Even if you are on site, same rules apply. So then the next step is going to be have they done exactly what you want to do? Okay. You're not going to want to hire the best bathroom remodeler in your city to build you a new standalone small ADU. You're just not. Find somebody that's done what you want to do in the market you want to do it. There's nobody on the planet better than doing what I do in my little area. If I had to come to your area, I would be learning from people in your area that are already doing it, that already have relationships with the planning department, that already have the inspectors on speed dial. So it's finding somebody that's already plugged in with that exact product. And then the next thing I would say is don't just rely on price. When we start, especially, we have this like price sensitivity, and we're, for lack of better terms, we're just cheap. We're trying to drive a return. We want a higher yield, and we're going to get a higher yield by paying less for the finished product. And it took me more years than I'd like to admit, maybe 20 years to learn that that's not the best path. So don't go with the lowest bidder, folks. Like find somebody that's done what you want to do in the market you want to do it, that has good references, that comes highly recommended, and that is going to give you a quality product that you're going to have to pay for. So those are the things I would tell him on that question of finding somebody. And then I guess the last thing would be to hire somebody that you trust. You don't have to really like them. They may not be the best. They may not have the nicest truck, but if you like them and trust them and like you have a good feeling, like instinct and intuition goes a long way in this business. It's a people business. It's not about the product, it's about the people. So just keep that in mind.
I love that. All right, again, folks, raise your hands, put comments there. We're going to go to Lindsay's question next is how do we go about using your plans? I'm in California, specifically LA. Do I need an architect to still revise them, submit them, or should I just submit as is?
Great question. So our plans are pre-approved in our market. So 100% pre-approved. Our building department's already signed them. Depending on where you are, you're going to need to do some tune-up to them. If you're in California, you have some regulations that we don't have in Oregon. You're going to have a seismic requirement. So you're going to need a structural engineer to stamp the actual building. You're also going to need a Title 24 certified engineer or draftsperson to certify your energy audit plan. You're also potentially going to need somebody to, engineer your solar package because you're in California and that's going to be a requirement. So depending on the state you're in, I'm very familiar with LA. We do a lot of plans there. You would take our plans and you could either take them to somebody else personally, or we can help you with that. For years, we've just been giving away free plans. And we have 3 units, and so many people like you have called us and said, "Hey, we want to use your plans, but we need to like change the windows because of the Title 24, the energy. Basically, there you can't have the sun shining in too many windows because it decreases your efficiencies." So we were like, "Well, we don't do anything to them. We just give them away as is." And a couple years ago, we started an in-house design firm. So I have a full-time designer who does my custom plans, and then we do custom plans for other people. So we can help you like modify our plans. A lot of times people, they're so affordable. We do these so affordably. I honestly, guys, I really make almost no money on this business. But we also do custom plans for people, and we do a lot of work in California. But the answer is you can take our plans and have us or somebody else tune them up to the standards. We have an engineer that we use in California that would stamp them, and then we do our own Title 24 because we're certified. But you have them touched up by us or somebody else, or you do something custom. But that's kind of the answer. If you're in an area where you don't need heavy engineering because you're not like right next to the San Andreas Fault, for example, or you're not you don't have like hurricane force winds in Cape Cod or South Florida, you can just use them. Like all of our state, where prescribed framing works, you don't need to do anything to the plans, except anybody is going to have to plot them. So there's a plot plan, which is part of your plan set, which is, hey, this is my exact lot. These are where my utilities are, and this is where the rectangle is going to fit. And a lot of times homeowners can do that themselves to save money. We can also help you with that. But great question.
Yeah, one of the things I want to go to, and we'll go to Jim after this. You actually brought it up earlier. I had it but lost it, so I didn't ask, but I'll ask it now. What do you look for in a lot? Like when you just mentioned a couple of properties fell in your lap. What is a red light, green light? Because I got to imagine not all lots are positioned to have an ADU. So what does Derek look for in a property to say yes to?
Keep it simple, right? We all follow Uber because we like simple. Flat lot, good access, good infrastructure. Like that's it. That's what I'm looking for. You realize that it's not price. It doesn't really matter. I force the value. The price is the last thing I look at. I'm always going to start with location. I'm not, location is so key. It's the only thing that time and money won't change. You can't build or remodel or ADU your way out of a bad neighborhood. Location. And it always, costs the same amount of money to build in the bad side of town as it does in the good side of town. Sometimes it costs you more money to build in the crappy side of town.
Sure does.
So, first and foremost, you have to be in the right spots and tear down. Everything in my mind works on like a flow chart. So from that's key. And then down, the next bracket down, I'm thinking make sure you're building in a place that has good zoning where you can build an ADU, where you don't need off-street parking, where there's no residency requirement. So it's got to be good area, it's got to have good zoning. And then physical characteristics, it's got to be flat for me. It's got to have good access. So I like double wide lots, or they don't have to be two lots, but it's wide enough where I can split it down the side and put another one, or just put it beside the house, or it has a nice deep backyard that has access off maybe a corner or an alley. And then when I say good infrastructure, it means that there's, a good sewer line out in the street, or there's plenty of power on the power pole, or maybe there's an underground power vault and there's enough amperage in there to add another transformer so I can feed another unit. And that sounds like in the weed stuff, but it's not. Like call your local city public works department and ask about water, sewer, and power for an ADU. And if it's all close and fairly inexpensive, that's good infrastructure. But flat lot, good access, good infrastructure. That's what I'm looking for. For everybody watching, these are my ADU goggles, right? When I show up to a property, I put these on. And this is basically just a visual. I don't put them on actually. Come on, Carlos, don't laugh at me. But I'm looking at the flat lot, good access, good infrastructure, and where I can force value. It's basically like look at properties differently. Most people look at a property by the price. I
Mhm.
look at it by the value it has.
Love that. Love that.
So
All right, Jim,
that's
we're
kind of
going.
my just
Oh,
that's my lot pitch there.
perfect. Love it, buddy. All right, Jim, you're up.
My thought's doing like a four unit on the same property. On your plans, have you ever done it where you've had four different facades, same frame, but just do different facades?
Lots of times you need to watch yeah, I've got awesome content that will help you. I have
Okay.
a playlist called Infill Housing Development where we just did four different units. I have several properties where I've done that. And we do that exactly that. We change the front porch and we change the color and we change the orientation. But we do packs of two, three, and four often. So yeah, that's a really good idea. Some things I've learned because when I first started doing it, I would put them all in there like 2x2 or 3x3 with like this really rectilinear design and they look kind of sterile. What I've learned lately, and this is like took me a lot of years to learn, if you're gonna do three or four, um, break them up, maybe not put them all in exact plane, and don't skimp out on like a landscape architect or at least a good landscaper to help you make them look less like a barracks compound and more like a cool little cottage cluster.
Yeah, I
That's
was
some
thinking like a communal area in the middle, nice little apartment
Yeah,
area. That's the
totally. If
thing.
you can do
Yeah.
some kind of like open courtyard
Yep.
and good landscaping, and like as opposed to just doing fences between 6 foot buildings, maybe do some nice buffering. It took me a long time to learn, spend money on landscaping to make them look nice when you're done. But yes, we do those often. That playlist is infill housing development, and it's long form. That they're all horizontal and they're longer videos. And I literally talk about and get in the ditch and hook up water, sewer, power. We cut all the pads and we build 4 different units. But there are two plans. There are 2 bedroom, 2 bath, and our 1 bedroom, 1 bath. We just build them here, and then we built them in the same courtyard across the courtyard, and they're just different colors, pointed different ways with different porches.
And that's on your YouTube channel, right?
Yes,
Perfect.
yeah, all
Um,
free.
and
Yeah.
then so California, most people I know that do ADU builds, they're talking 250 to 350 a square foot.
Yeah, they're probably hands off and they're probably over designing and overspending on their units. Or they might have bought, I couldn't do what I do if I bought on a hillside lot or if I bought a property because it was a good deal in a good location. But in order to upgrade the power, I'm going to have to do underground from 4 poles away. And that's a $60,000 upgrade before I even start. So you have to line up all the pieces. Like all the dominoes have to be lined up to save money. If you just miss one, you get a great location, flat lot, good access, good infrastructure, fair price. And then all of a sudden you realize that the sewer line feeding the house, the primary house that you were going to tie into, is 8 feet deep and it's clay and it's crushed. And the city says, we're going to let you do your 4 units, but you're going to have to upgrade the sewer line of the primary house. And it's 200 feet long. There's an easement through the neighbor's property that isn't recorded, and out in the street it's 10 feet deep. And all of a sudden you've got a 3 month lawyer bill trying to get your prescribed easement on paper. And then you have, a $60,000 bill from a private contractor. Then you got to pay the city, $40,000 to dig down and cut out a piece of their 8-inch main and tie into it. So one little thing takes a project from, 175 if you self-manage to 250. I'm not saying that you can always build for that price, but what we do as investors, if we own a property and we're going to build an ADU, we have no choice. We work with what we have. But if we're investors, we're just sitting there, with our ADU goggles on, watching balls go by. One of my favorite analogies is Warren Buffett talking about Ted Williams' book, The Science of Hitting. And like in investing, there's no called strikes. You don't have to buy anything. We're just sitting there watching pitches go by, and we're waiting for that one in the sweet spot where we bat 400. So you're able to look for properties that are going to be affordable because you did your homework.
Yeah, I should have prefaced that. That's California. That's existing homes that are adding an ADU.
Yeah,
That's
and
a big
that's
difference.
also with profit. Another thing I talk about often is we have this tug of war. We have the building contractor who's pulling this way, rightfully so, because they're trying to build a business, they're trying to create profit, and they need to feed their family. And then we have the investor, pulling this way. The only way to pull the same direction is to do both. So
Yeah.
that's why, owning construction and owning the property and, kind of owning the process, we're able to really whittle those prices down. And one thing I'll say, the last thing I'll say on this topic, I call it like the 3% rule. And that is everything you can do with your brain and your network is going to save you 3%. So if you can do the landscaping, you're going to save 3%. If you can write your own contract and not have to, pay a realtor when you buy the property or you go direct to seller, that's going to save you on average of 3%. If your brother is an electrician and can give you the brother-in-law deal, that's 3%. So you stack up, 5, 10 skills, and you have a 15% discount on construction that nobody else has. Stack your skills up, and each skill you stack is going to save you approximately 3%.
Yeah, I'm changing my old remodeling company to a whole re real estate investment where BRRRRs and then also the ADU type stuff. And I'm just switching my whole business model to that process.
Oh, that's so rad.
Yeah. So I want to fix old houses. I love that. Bring them back
Nice.
to life. So
Yeah, well, that's what we're doing still. We buy bare land occasionally, but it's so much easier to buy land with an asset on it because we can get financing up front. So we buy
yes.
good location, flat lot, good access, good infrastructure, old house on a big lot. We remodel the house, and then we do, and I'll get into this, I hope, but we split the lot so we can put them on their own tax lot of record so we can scoop way more equity out of those.
Yeah, that's not as easy in California. No,
Well, yes and no. And I don't want to argue with you. Like you're
no,
an
yeah.
expert in your market, but you have SB9. You just have to learn how to use it.
Yes.
You just passed condo law in your state, and several cities have already adopted it. So you can go the
It's
condo
coming.
route. So it's coming. If you guys listen to Thatch is a friend of mine. I've known him, and we talk a couple times a year. I've been to some of his events. Thatch is a great guy. But up there, they're doing fee simple lots just now. They've been doing condos. It's getting better than it's ever been. And the point I want to make is that like Oregon did it, and everybody's like, that's not going to work. And now everybody's like, whoa, that works. So California's done it, Washington's done it, Montana's done it, Arizona's doing it. All these states are really coming up to speed. First, it was like, no, we don't want to do ADUs, and then a few years later, the constituents forced the public, the voters, they forced the decision makers to allow ADUs, and then within 3 to 5 years after that, laws start coming out on how to break them off and put them on their own lots, either with fee simple lot partitioning or condo law. And then, where we're at, maybe 10 years ahead of everybody else. Now we're just pretty much building the density. And a lot of these are going to be saleable because states and cities care about entry level pricing. And as Uber talks about forever and ever, how do you get cheaper prices? You just build smaller houses. And now this strategy, we build smaller houses on smaller lots, and they're 35% below the median. So I would just not caution you, but I would just say it's coming. I love what you're doing by gearing
Yeah.
your company towards remodels to like maybe development and building these new units, because you don't want to be at the party when everybody's at the party. You want to be like Wayne Gretzky says, you want to be going to where the puck is going to be at. And
Yeah.
that's where you're at in California or any other state for that matter.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I can go all day if I want.
Yeah, of
Thank you.
course. Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. Thanks, buddy. All right, we're going to do a comment from John. Just again, get your comments in. We will go down the list.
Carlos.
Have you ever built an ADU on a property that was already multifamily?
Yeah, that's a tough one to answer. I mean, no. Yeah. Well, actually, yes, but it's very site specific. So most of the time, if you're in a multifamily zone, with the exception of California, California has multifamily ADUs in the bonus ADU program, and San Diego. There's all these different nuances. But most of the time, if you're in a multifamily zone, you're building multifamily units, and they're not going to be an accessory dwelling unit per se, with the exception of California, because an accessory dwelling unit, the A in the acronym ADU, stands for accessory, and that's accessory to the primary structure. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a side road nuance here. And the reason why I want to lean towards saying no, like right now, I'm building ADUs in high density zones that are zone multifamily, but the strategy benefit is we're going into low density, single family neighborhoods. Think of like bigger lots, more open space. And I don't mean this in like a racist way where like we want to go to like where there's bigger, nicer lots, but strategically, like negatively over time in the 40s and 50s, cities and counties created these zoning laws that kept like the poor people out of the nicer areas of town. And they put the poor and the black and the brown. It's so awful. They put all the poor people like down in the cities or by the water sewage treatment plant or by the train tracks or in these downtown corridors. And they disguised it with like, oh, we want to be closer to parks and we want to put these people closer to bus lines. Really, they wanted to keep them out of the nice parts of town with big yards. What's so powerful about the ADU is you can take a multifamily zone that may be in a more desirable neighborhood with a little bit more green space and less busy, less congested, less pollution. And you can take that lot and turn it into a multifamily lot by building one or two or multiple ADUs. So my gut answer is yeah, we can do that, but my ADU goggle answer is no. We're looking for what we call a high demand, low supply product, which is a single standalone small unit in a great area that somebody's going to want to live in. And all these market rate units are coming online, and most of them are multifamily. Most 1-1s and 2-2s anywhere in the market are going to be shared wall, sidewall, over, under, whatever. And we're building that product in a nicer area with nicer finishes, and it doesn't share a wall. And where do you think the tenants are coming?
Yeah. Yeah,
They're coming
exactly.
to us.
Yeah, it's
So
funny.
single family neighborhoods.
I've said for a long time, I buy a lot of houses over the years, and my best performing units are always 1 bedroom, 1 bath homes because once they move in, they don't leave, right? They go out feet first. So again, this is where it's going. All right, so we got a question from I'm going to say Kai. Good morning, Derek. Mike, I'm in San Jose. House with an ADU new build on top of existing home. Can I sell it separately from the main house, but with the same water line, sewer line, and electrical?
Yes, as a condominium. San Jose has, I think San Jose was the first city to adopt the new standard, which doesn't require but allows California cities to do condo. And you can do what's called common areas, and you can also have common facilities, and you can have common infrastructure. I would talk to a professional land use attorney down there that does condos, because a condominium is not really involving as much party. It's not really involving the state. It's really like a legal interpretation of the land, and it's between a lawyer and the state. I didn't mean state. I meant city. It's not really the city state. It's kind of like the lawyer and the state make an agreement of who owns what. I will tell you that shared infrastructure can be a little bit more of an issue, but most condos do have shared infrastructure. They have common infrastructure. They have common space. They also have deeded space. Some condos are air condos where the walls, the invisible lot lines go all the way up. So over unders are a little bit more challenging at times than side by sides. But with condo law, you can do really cool stuff. So you have a brand new house with an ADU above the garage. You can condo that off. You can condo off the parking spot and dedicate that or deed that or sell that to somebody else. You could condo off a raised garden bed. So talk to a land use attorney who specializes in condo law in your area. Again, in your area, not even a city over. Somebody in San Jose that's already doing this because it's really popular. But if you're really looking to do splits, it's easier if they're not stacked in some cases, and it's also easier if there's separation. But yes, you can do it. Great question.
Very cool. All right, next up, Stephen. Good morning, Derek. I'm a first-time investor. I have no rental units yet. When would you say I'm ready for an ADU project? And would you recommend an ADU project for an out-of-state investor?
No, not unless you could buy it with it already done. If I was brand new, I would be looking to house hack. I would buy the cheapest house I could in the nicest neighborhood. Say it's a little 3-2 with a big backyard. I would try to buy that. I would move into the garage. I would rent the rooms to my friends while I saved up money and figured out how to lever to potentially build one in the backyard. That's what I would do with the skills I have. If I had no skills, I would still house hack. I would look for the most affordable house I could in the best neighborhood. I would buy it. I would live, in one of the rooms while I rented the other ones, and saved up money and either built an ADU or bought a house that already has one. They're so overpriced now because their values are finally catching up with the market. If you live in one of those, I don't know where you're at, but if you live in one of those markets where it's like, Derek, why would I build an ADU? They cost $200,000 and everybody that's building them only gets appraised value of 50K. Even better. That's the city you want to go buy one in because they're undervalued. You're buying, two houses for the price of 1.5. But no, if I was a new investor, I would not try to go develop out of state.
Yeah, I mean,
I would not even go try to be a developer. I would get my feet under me. I would get on the property ladder. I would house hack. I would buy it with low down with none of my own money. But if you could find a unit now, this is a great plug for the federal government. If you can find a unit that already has an ADU as of November of last year, Freddie Fannie now allows you to use 75% of the rental income of the accessory dwelling unit as qualifying income for your DTI. So you may think, oh man, I live in Fresno. I'm only qualified for 250. The average house is 300. I'm looking for a house for 250 that I can house hack. Well, actually, if you find a house with an ADU, you've got about $400,000 of purchasing power with your same DTI because you can rent that puppy out.
yeah, love it. Again, one of the things all new investors, just a reminder, one of my core tenets is you want to de-risk the first opportunity. You got to get to proof of concept. You got to get that first win. If you're stacking out of state on top of ADU, on top of no investments, that risk profile, in my opinion, just gets wild way too fast. All right, next up, question from Mark. Make sure I go in order. Yeah. Okay, so HVAC question. I see you prefer mini splits units in bedrooms and living areas. How do you heat and cool the bathrooms?
Yeah, it's not perfect. It's not the best science ever, but what happens is we get a forced air, like the house is pressurized with hot or cold air or dehumidification, whatever we're using, because to today's standards on our new builds, everything is so gosh darn tight. In a perfect world, you can put small heads in the bathroom. I personally like a central air register fed system. I think it's a little bit more efficient when it comes to putting hot and cold air on your body. So if you have a register under the toe kick of your bathroom vanity and it blows right out on your feet while you're using the toilet to go number two, like it doesn't get any better than that. But if you stack that against the inefficiencies of running ducted systems and the price of running ducted systems against the efficiency, the ease of use, the length, the warranty of a mini split, we don't get hot or cold air directly blown on us in the bathroom. We put them strategically in the house. Usually one head pressurizes the whole place. And because they're so tight, that house, it pressurizes. That temperature is like instantly everywhere the same,
Yeah.
the same. So that's how we go about that.
Yeah. So if somebody wanted to reach out to you to get some local plans tweaked, or do we just go to thataduguy.com, or how do you want people to reach out?
Yep. Thataduguy.com is where you can find me right at the top of our homepage. There's a big red button that says free plans. You can click on those. You can look at the PDFs and see if you like them. And then on that same page, you can click through, go to the hamburger and click through our pages, and you can read about me. You can see our website. You can see our videos. You can see our custom plan stuff. I have a Google Doc that I just send people, and it's like 6 questions, and you answer those questions, where you're at, what size you think you want, what are your setbacks if you know them, and that goes directly to me and to Shrantha, my designer. And our, not to plug what we do, but we try to give people plans within 10 days, and we're half price on average. We're half price of anybody else in any market. And you don't even fully pay us until they're approved from your city. So we're not even looking to take your money until like we know they're approved. And usually there's a couple rounds of renditions that we have to do, but that's where you'd find us and how to do that.
Awesome. Well, one of the things, again, you hit earlier, I want to hit again, that you actually helped me with was, I was doing an ADU project, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago now. And I found out that you could build, I think it was 1,200 square feet. And of course, what did I want to do? I wanted to build 1,200 square feet. But after some coaching from you and whatnot, it's like, Zuber, you preach yield. Why don't you go calculate the yield? And the answer isn't always the biggest. Just hit that again.
Yeah, bigger isn't always better. Some things that lead me to that belief via experience that I didn't used to know. These are all things that I learned the hard way, guys. I'm not smart. I didn't just like come up with this. These are all things that I failed at, and then I was like, oh, there's a better way. The bigger unit, it's going to have more people. If you have a 3-bedroom, 1,200 square foot unit, you're probably going to have 2 cars and at least 3 people. That's double or triple the slams of the door, the flushes of the toilet, the cars, the in and out, the traffic, the calls coming in from the neighbors that don't like you. The smaller you make it, the more strategic it is, the less impact it has on the neighborhood, the less impact it has on your assets, those assets that are depreciating over 27 and a half years. That's not just because the tax man likes you. That's because tenants break shit. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So smaller. And then another good example I like to use, let's just use market averages. Let's say a really nice new custom standalone unit in an average market today would rent for $1,400 a month, and it's 500 square feet. If we built that twice as big and made it 1,000 square feet, it's not going to rent for $2,800, but it's going to cost us roughly twice as much to build. So it's just like the simple math. Exception, 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 dot, dot, dot. If you live in the highest value markets in the country, you got an ocean view lot in San Diego, like those rules are out the window and you want to build to max capacity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. We'll go back to you, Jim. Go ahead.
I use ducted mini splits because you get the same advantage as the mini split, but it's actually less work because you're running it like a traditional system, and that's in an attic typically. You're running a duct register to each place, and then just one freon line to the outside condenser.
Yeah, that's we've experimented with some of those. They have pumps most of the time to get the condensation out. They don't always use gravity. And the one problem we have with our mini splits is water, either the gravity fed condensing line or the pump that pumps the condensed water from the cooling mode out.
Right.
And then the other reason that we don't use those, not that they're bad and not that I'm being argumentative, but most of our stuff is vaulted ceilings where we have a full sealed, individually vented bay vault, and we can't run those.
You don't have an attic space.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we do vaults because in a small building, how do we make it feel large? We give them lots of volume.
Right.
But those are good, and those are coming a long way. And that's also a good product. If we were building drop ceiling or attic ceiling, we would be looking at those.
Gotcha.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out from John telling us what's going on in Nevada. Just passed AB 396 to allow ADUs in counties greater than 100 in population and cities with 60K. I am happy to see that because I am actively shopping for a property in Henderson. So thank you for that.
Yeah, let me hit that, Zuber.
Yep.
So
Please.
this is the way of the future. You guys heard Thatch say it. You've heard. I've been screaming this from the rooftop since the late '90s, and like nobody's given a damn. Nobody's even listened until like the
You
last
got to
five
call it the
years.
Bitcoin of real estate. That's what you got to do. That's what
Yeah,
people will
I
listen to.
know. Well, obviously, as we know, with his millions of followers, Thatch is like a marketing master.
Yes.
And a great dude. He's a great dude as well, but he's got the marketing down, and he's done a good job of really promoting ADUs with his following. But what I was gonna say is like you're looking in Henderson, you're looking anywhere in Arizona, you're looking anywhere in Oregon, you're looking anywhere in California, Connecticut, Florida, like the days of buying a house based on just the asset, in my opinion, are over. We need to be looking at the lot. Look at the land. Even if you're not going to build an ADU tomorrow, land bank. They're not making any more land. So I will not, I do not, cannot bring myself to buying a property that doesn't have some type of room on the property for infill development either now or later. So if you're looking at a couple places and like you've got your buy box and you've got the 20 that you're looking at every day and you know what average is, not going to change your book. But if there was one more thing I would put in there, it's like, what expandability does this have? Because you could look at a property that's very similar that maybe falls right out of your average and maybe falls right out of a good deal based on yield, but it has 5,000 square feet with alley access in a good neighborhood that later you can split off because, you know,
Mm-hmm.
in Henderson, they're like, okay, now you can have ADUs, but you still need to have these couple little things. Well, in 3 to 5 years, they're going to be like, now you can sell your ADU if you have room to
Yep.
split it off, and you have whatever, say a 4 foot setback on all 3 or 4 sides. You can split it off and sell it. So I would be looking down the road at the future. I would call the planning department and I would just say, hey, Henderson Planning Department, I'm looking at buying a house. I know eventually we're going to be able to sell these ADUs like all these other surrounding states. Do you guys have like a 10-year master plan? Do you address this in your comprehensive plan? Send me your comp plan so I can read it so I can buy properties that I know in the future I'll be able to split. They're paid based on our tax dollars to help us develop. Call the experts and ask them to help you. That's simple.
Love it. Love it. See, this is why we talk. All right, we're going to go to Jeff here. He's got 14 rental single family homes. One is a corner lot with a large backyard. I like where this is going so far. Does a corner lot work well for ADUs? Any pointers for government permits? Any pointers to run water sewage line around existing home?
Yeah, corner lots are great. I like corner lots mostly because they have access from 2 points.
Yep.
So the traditional like little narrow deep lot with a house and we build an ADU in the backyard, the tenant has to walk down the side yard past the main house. And that's not a deal breaker, but it's not ideal. What's even better is if there's a lot in the access in the back off the alley, there's a lot access in the front off the main road. You put a dividing fence up between the two and they don't even know they're on the same piece of property. Corner lots can do that too, because you enter off of one side or the other. Some negatives that you need to think about on corner lots, depending on your municipality's rules, is a lot of times the setback on a corner lot is farther. So in a lot of zones, a side setback is say 5 feet, but on a corner lot, it may be 15 feet because
Mm.
there's like circulation and vision rules about like turning corners. So you can't like build as close to the lot line. Another thing, if you're going to be splitting the lot, a lot of times cities can improve that you do street improvements, or they can require that you do street improvements. So if you have a 50-foot by 100-foot lot and you're going to do a lot split later and split this thing off to scoop a ton of equity, you might have to improve a 50-foot sidewalk out front. Well, if it's a corner lot, you might have twice the improvements. You have to do twice as much curb and gutter and twice as much sidewalk and plant twice as many street trees. So they're beneficial more oftentimes than they're not, but sometimes they carry regulations that non-corner lots do not have. How do we figure that out, you might ask? You call, email, and go into your local planning department and ask specific questions. Hey, I own 123 Main Street. It's a corner lot. I want to build an ADU. What's the best way to get water, sewer, and power to the side? And what improvements am I going to be required? Have the decision makers help you. So that's the answer to that question. Water, sewer, power already goes to the house on the corner lot. You're going to piggyback into that and or talk to Public Works in your area to see how much it would be to tap in new water, sewer, power to bring to the new lot.
Flavio's question. Derek, do you have to do the whole survey to split the lot? What is the estimated cost?
Yeah, you do. You do need to do a survey, usually through condo or fee simple lot partitioning. That's going to vary by area. We're all in on a survey planning, county recording fees, anywhere from like 10 to 20,000 bucks, depending on the project. But I just want to touch on this real quick. Averages. Let's just use averages. $400,000 house, average national value median. Let's say we can build an ADU efficiently. And let's say it costs us $200,000. So we buy a $400,000 house. We build a $200,000 ADU. We're all in for 600 and it appraises for like 550. And we're like, whoa, that was kind of a negative investment there. What happened? Well, same example. We buy the $400,000 house. We are able to do that survey and split that lot off onto its own legal tax lot of record. A condo is going to be valued at about 20% less on average. So keep that in mind. But if you can do a regular lot split, $400,000 house, $200,000 ADU, now that ADU on its own lot is valued at like 325. So you literally have $125,000 equity scoop in 90 days if you can do it quickly, as opposed to a $50,000 negative for the exact same structures in the exact same area. But because it's an asset that can be financed separately, it has a lot more value.
Yeah. Love
And
that.
then we really can expand those numbers. Let's just use a Thatch number. He buys an old beat up house in Seattle that's worth 6. He puts $100,000 into it. Now it's worth 9. He splits off the backyard. He builds the ADU for 350, and it's worth 8. So now you've got close to $750,000, 600,000 ish
Yeah.
forced equity on the same exact example in a much higher priced market.
Sounds like Bitcoin to me. I'm just teasing.
Yeah. The new Bitcoin. I don't
There
like
you
that
go.
analogy because Bitcoin is super volatile and
Yeah.
ADUs aren't.
Yeah. I'm just teasing.
I
Just
know, I know. I know we just got to be like, what I love about your channel is like, we always give people the real. We
yeah.
can be flashy. I love how you've changed your headlines and we've got all the gloom and doom. But once you click on it and you watch the show, you're not getting crash broed. You're getting the real
Yeah.
facts.
There you go.
We do both.
There you go. Kevin's question. Do you have tiered list of products, Windows mini splits that you use? I'm in, I guess, high cost of living beach area. Ooh, there we go. You're referring to and what to put in products in work areas.
Yeah, yeah, we give it all away, guys. Like, just go to our website, thataduguy.com, scroll down the bottom, and there's a link there's a little button that says shopping list. And click on that PDF shopping list, and there's a list of every single thing that we use. Our drawer pulls, our light fixtures, our faucets, our mini split, our appliances, like all the years of decision fatigue I like banged my head against the wall to get of like how do we get affordable yet custom finishes, doorknobs, cabinet pulls, like I said, everything, and almost all of them are off of Amazon. And I actually met a dude. This is why we spend money to go to events and we spend our time. I met a dude before Zuber did the 50K party. He hosted a really good event in Fresno. And I drove down there and Zuber took a bunch of us out to dinner. And I sat by a guy, I think his name's Nick. He was the AV guy from the church that came to help you.
Yep.
And I sat, and Carlos was at that table, and Carlos's wife. And he said, why don't you put together a PDF of all the stuff you use and give away to people and you get these like affiliate links? And I was like, what's an affiliate link? This is me. I've been an investor for 25 years. I don't even know what affiliate link means. I can't even spell affiliate. Well, anyways, that tip, I went home, I called my team and I said, and this is not some big, huge business. My team is like my mom. I called my mom who does my billing and does a lot of my media editing. And I said, Mom, can you whip me up this like PDF with like all the stuff we use? And so now I get like a half of a penny every time somebody buys something on Amazon from that thing. So I get like a monthly direct deposit from Amazon for like $10. But the point is, we give it away and all those items are on there. So go to our shopping list and you can see all the stuff that we use. And you don't have to use our link. Shop around and find it, but that's what we use.
There you go. Well, this will be the last question because I got a hard stop at 9 o'clock. This is from Jeff. Does an ADU use the same property tax land PIN number? Thinking about my one corner lot, if possible, to split into 2 pins, maybe not ADU anymore.
Yeah, yeah. If it's split, it gets a new tax ID number, and therefore you also get a new tax bill. So
Right.
if you're going to keep it forever and you don't need to scoop the equity, there's no reason to split it because you're just going to reduce your cash flow. The nice thing, and for the first couple of years, we allowed that. I didn't split mine. I was like, I don't care. I'm a buy and hold or build and hold. I'm never going to sell these. Why would I like give the county more of my money? And
Mhm.
then I realized that I can scoop that equity and get more velocity to go do more
Right.
stuff.
The
And then
cash
also
flow.
for the
Right.
first
Yeah.
time in my career, I've thought about maybe someday I'll sell something. I don't know. And before they change the laws, I may as well just split all these off. And I took a portfolio of a bunch of units. And when I split a bunch of them off, I forced a couple $1 million of equity in a year by just doing paperwork. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the easiest work I've ever done in my life. Like,
Let me
why am I
sign my
working
name
so
a few
hard?
times. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of the long and the short of that.
Yeah.
It's
Love it.
worth
Well,
it though, because you can scoop so much more equity out to go do more stuff.
Yeah, I mean, people have heard me tell
Or
this story. You're either in build mode, grind mode, or in chill mode. If you're still in that acquisition mode, scooping that equity, as Thad talks about, Derek talks about, that's a useful strategy.
And then another thing that I'm looking at as I'm getting older now is like, well, if I'm just gonna live up, I'm getting to the point, folks, where like I'm not burned out, but I'm ready to stop. Like I don't want to do this forever. I did this. I've worked dark to dark for so many years, so I could like enjoy my life. And we saw the shift in Zuber a couple years ago when Dion finally showed up and shook him and said, "You don't have to do this 7 days a week. Like take Olivia and go cruise." And like I'm finally like I'm the world's youngest tired old landlord. I feel like now. And a really amazing strategy if we own, just say you own 10 properties paid off and they double in value every approximately 10 years. Well, every year you just refinance one of those. And if it's on its
Yep.
own lot, you can refinance it. And what's so cool about a refinance is it's tax free. We don't pay tax on debt.
Yeah.
So that's really why my long-term vision adapted to allowing me to put these on their own lots because I'll be able to live off them easier.
Yeah, we'll do one more question because I just love this one. Derek, do you have any meetups or Zoom calls or YouTube lives where we could ask you questions directly like this?
Not lately and not scheduled. I used to hop on and do YouTube lives. I try to do them like once a month, and I've just gotten so busy that it's really hard to do that. I will say, I pride myself in being one of the easiest people to get a hold of. Please don't abuse this and don't call me with stupid questions, and definitely don't call me if you aren't ready to take action. But the phone number on the top, it's on my website in a couple spots. Like my emails, I answer those every single day, every night. Zuber does it too. His answers are a little shorter than me, but I still try to answer every comment every day that comes in. And I need to get better about getting on here and going live on YouTube, especially because it's just an easier format. So thank you for the accountability call to do that more. But no, I don't. I don't have a community. I don't have anything to sell you. I don't, not that there's anything wrong with that. I just like my time doesn't allow me to like really foster a cool community. I wish I could do what Zuber's doing and have this rad school community of all these amazing people, but my time doesn't allow that right now, and I don't really have the capacity to do that. So power to people like you, Zuber. Anytime I get a call from Zuber, just so you guys know, like this dude has helped me so much. He's been such an amazing mentor. Anytime he calls me, I'm like, yes. It doesn't even matter what time or day. I'm like, yes, I can do it. And I'm stoked to be on the Zoob tube. You guys are awesome. I brag about this all the time. My secret weapon to like keeping up on finance and the macros and what's going on is the daily financial news. So really, really cool. Mike Butler in Fresno introduced us. And like, I'm forever indebted to that guy. Whenever I see Michael Butler or I see him post something, I think like, dude, he gave me the best intro ever, hooking me up with Zuber. So great community. Get out, meet people.
Yeah.
We miss 100% of the shots we don't take. Don't be afraid to fail. I have stuff up every single day on stuff we've done for 30 years in a row. Just like get out there and do it.
Yeah. Another thing, folks, just is the school community. I'm going to make sure I get Derek inside school so I can tag him on questions that are ADU related. That way we can get him more involved in our own little community here. Derek, you're amazing, buddy. Take care of yourself.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks,
Later.
guys. Good to see you, Carlos. I saw a bunch of my friends in here. Good to see you guys.
That's awesome.